to construct a story? Every story has a plot. Plot is what happens in the story. There are 5 elements to a story's plot. Beginning or exposition, this is when you introduce the plot and the character to the listener.
Romeo and Juliet met at a party, and it was love at first sight. However, their families were enemies.
Rising action. This is where the key problem of the narrative is developed and explained via a character and their actions. This is the part where the story momentum is built.
Romeo visits Juliet on her balcony every evening, and they fall madly in love, and they decide to get secretly married without the knowledge of their families. Then Romeo kills Tybalt, Juliet's cousin, and is exiled, and her father orders her to get married to someone else. Juliet takes some sleeping medicine to pretend like she's asleep and sends a note to Romeo that she hasn't killed herself, but appears to everyone else that she has. Unfortunately, he didn't get the message.
Climax, also called the turning point of the story, is where the problem is dealt with and resolved. It could be a happy resolution or a sad or an ugly resolution. Either ways, the problem gets resolved.
Romeo kills himself, and then Juliet awakes and realizes that he didn't get the message, and she kills herself too.
Falling action or denouement. This is where the reader learns what happens because of the climax or the way in which the problem was solved.
The two families mourn Romeo and Juliet's death.
Resolution, where the entire plot is wrapped up and there is a sense of closure for the reader.
Romeo and Juliet's death has ended the family feud, and there's peace once again in Verona.
Characters are of 2 types, the protagonist and the antagonist. The protagonist is the main character, and the antagonist is the character who is in opposition with the protagonist. Example, Romeo and Juliet are the protagonists. Their conflict is with their families and their parents, especially Juliet, whose parents wish her to marry someone else. Conflict. For there to be a narrative, the protagonist or the main character has to have a conflict. Now, the conflict could be any one of these 3 types. It could be with another person, that's the antagonist, or the main character has some internal conflict. So the conflict could be internal within oneself, or the conflict is with the environment or the nature. Example, Romeo and Juliet's conflict are that their families are in a feud and they are not allowed to be with each other. Setting. Narratives have a time and place where the action is set. Example, Romeo and Juliet is set in Verona, Italy. Theme. Narratives have a theme or main idea or main underlying meaning. Theme could be stated in a complete sentence. For example, Romeo and Juliet is not just about love, but you could state the theme as love overcomes hate.